The unexpected hero. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Captain Jack Harper as he lazily reclined in the pilot's seat of his battered freighter, the Rusty Bucket. It wasn't much to look at, but it was home. Jack had been drifting through the outer reaches of known space for months now, taking odd jobs and keeping a low profile. Another thrilling day in paradise, he muttered, taking a swig from a dented thermos of what passed for coffee in this sector. The bitter liquid made him grimace. Guess it's time to find some actual work. As if on cue, the ship's ancient comm system crackled to life. Jack raised an eyebrow, surprised anyone could reach him out here in the boondocks of the galaxy. Unidentified vessel, a panicked voice cut through the static. This is Princess Zara of the Centauri Alliance. We are under attack and require immediate assistance. Please respond. Jack sat up straighter, suddenly alert. The Centauri Alliance. They were supposed to be the dominant power in this arm of the galaxy. What could have them running scared? Before he could respond, another transmission broke through, this one cold and menacing. Attention, refugee vessel. This is Admiral Vex of the Dracon Empire. Surrender the fugitives immediately, or be destroyed along with them. Well, shit, Jack muttered, weighing his options. He could hyperjump away and pretend he never heard a thing. That would be the smart play, but something in the desperation of the princess's voice tugged at him. With a resigned sigh, Jack fired up the Rusty Bucket's engines. Your old man didn't raise no coward, he said to himself, plotting an intercept course. As he approached the coordinates, the scene that greeted him made his blood run cold. A massive Dracon warship loomed over a small, sleek vessel that was clearly outgunned and outmaneuvered. Jack opened a channel to the princess's ship. This is Captain Harper of the Rusty Bucket. Hang tight, Your Highness. The cavalry's here. Oh, thank the stars, came the relieved reply. Please, you must help us. The fate of the entire galaxy may depend on it. No pressure or anything, Jack muttered. He surveyed the situation, his mind racing. The Rusty Bucket wasn't exactly a warship, but he had a few tricks up his sleeve. Admiral Vex's voice boomed across the comms once more. Foolish human, you dare to interfere in matters beyond your comprehension. Your primitive vessel is no match for the might of the Dracon Empire. Jack grinned, a plan already forming. Maybe not, he replied, but I got something you don't. Lizard breath. Good old-fashioned human ingenuity. With that, he cut the transmission and set to work. Jack had long ago modified the Rusty Bucket's cargo hold to conceal a number of surprises. Now, it was time to put them to use. He maneuvered his ship between the Dracon warship and the princess's vessel, buying them some time. Then he activated a series of electromagnetic pulses, carefully calibrated to interfere with Dracon systems. The massive warship's weapons sputtered and died, leaving its crew momentarily confused. Jack seized the opportunity, launching a barrage of modified mining charges. They weren't designed as weapons, but they packed enough of a punch to damage the warship's engines. Your Highness, Jack called out, now's your chance. I've opened a path. Get your royal behind out of here. The princess's ship didn't need to be told twice. It zipped past the Rusty Bucket, making a beeline for open space. But Jack's victory was short-lived. The Dracon ship, while damaged, was far from defeated. Its massive bulk turned ponderously, bringing secondary weapons to bear. Oh, hell, Jack muttered, realizing he might have bitten off more than he could chew. He jerked the controls hard, narrowly avoiding a volley of energy blasts that lit up the space around him. Just as things were looking dire, the princess's voice came through once more. Captain Harper, follow us closely. We're jumping to hyperspace. Jack didn't need to be told twice. He pushed the Rusty Bucket's engines to their limit, falling in behind the sleeker vessel just as it vanished into the swirling vortex of hyperspace. At the last second, he managed to slip into its wake, the sudden acceleration plastering him back in his seat. When they emerged, Jack found himself in an unfamiliar star system, his ship's sensors struggling to make sense of the surroundings. The princess's vessel hung nearby, looking worse for wear but intact. A transmission came through, and this time Jack could see the face behind the voice. Princess Zara was strikingly beautiful, with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. But it was the determined set of her jaw that caught Jack's attention. "Captain Harper," she said, her voice filled with gratitude, "I cannot thank you enough for your bravery. You saved not only myself and my daughter, but perhaps the future of the entire Centauri Alliance." Jack ran a hand through his disheveled hair, trying to look more presentable. "All in a day's work, Your Highness. Though I gotta admit, I'm a little out of my depth here. What's this all about? And who were those Dracon fellas?" Zara's expression darkened. "The Dracon Empire is the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced. They seek to conquer and subjugate all other species, seeing them as inferior. My people have been fighting a losing war against them for generations." She paused, conflict clear on her face. "Captain, I know I have no right to ask more of you, but we are desperate. Will you hear me out?" Jack leaned back in his chair, a crooked smile on his face. "Well, Your Highness, seems to me I'm already in pretty deep. Might as well hear what you've got to say." Zara nodded gratefully. "The Centauri Alliance has fallen. Our last stronghold was overrun mere days ago. My daughter and I escaped with our most closely guarded secret, the key to defeating the Dracon Empire once and for all." Jack's eyebrows shot up. "That's a pretty big claim. What kind of key are we talking about?" "Not a what, Captain Harper. A who." Zara stepped aside, revealing a small figure behind her. A young girl, no more than 10 years old, with the same iridescent skin as her mother. "This is my daughter, Lyra. She possesses a unique genetic trait that could neutralize the Dracon's greatest weapon." Jack's mind reeled at the implications. He was just a washed-up cargo pilot, and now he was being drawn into a galactic conflict with the fate of entire civilizations hanging in the balance. "I don't suppose I could just drop you off at the nearest friendly planet and call it a day?" he asked, already knowing the answer. Zara shook her head, a sad smile on her face. "I'm afraid not, Captain. The Dracon have eyes everywhere. We need someone unexpected, someone they won't be looking for." Her eyes met his, filled with both hope and desperation. "We need you." Jack sighed, running a hand over his face. He thought of his quiet life of anonymity, of the peace he found in the vastness of space. Then he looked at the young princess, her eyes wide with fear and hope, and knew he couldn't turn his back on them. "All right, Your Highness," he said, straightening up in his chair. "I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm in. What's the plan?" Zara's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Captain Harper. You may well be the galaxy's last hope." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "We need to gather allies, those who still resist the Dracon in secret. There's a hidden rebel base in the Andromeda sector. If we can reach it, we might stand a chance." Jack nodded, already plotting a course in his head. "It won't be easy. The Dracon will be hunting us every step of the way." "I have faith in you, Captain," Zara said, her eyes shining with newfound hope. "Together we will write a new chapter in the history of our galaxy." As Jack prepared the rusty bucket for the journey ahead, he couldn't help but shake his head at the absurdity of it all. Here he was, a nobody from a backwater planet, suddenly thrust into the role of galactic hero. "Well, old girl," he said, patting the ship's console affectionately, "looks like we're in for one hell of an adventure." With that, the unlikely trio, a human refugee, an alien princess, and a child who held the key to the galaxy's future, set off into the unknown, the fate of countless worlds resting on their shoulders. First contact. The rusty bucket drifted through the inky void of space, its systems running on minimal power to avoid detection. Inside, Captain Jack Harper pored over star charts, plotting their course to the hidden rebel base in the Andromeda sector. Princess Zara stood beside him, her iridescent skin casting a soft glow in the dimly lit cockpit. "Captain, I must warn you," she said, her voice low. "The path ahead is treacherous. The Dracom have eyes everywhere. Jack nodded, a wry smile on his face. Don't worry, Your Highness. Staying off the radar is something of a specialty of mine. A small voice piped up from behind them. Are we going to be okay, Mama? They turned to see young Princess Lyra, her wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. Zara knelt beside her daughter, pulling her into a tight embrace. Yes, my darling. Captain Harper will keep us safe. Jack felt the weight of their trust settle on his shoulders. He was used to looking out for himself, but now he had 2 lives depending on him, and potentially the fate of the entire galaxy. All right, ladies, he said, clapping his hands together. First things first, we need supplies, and I know just the place to get them without raising any alarms. He set a course for a small, unremarkable planet on the fringes of charted space. As they approached, Zara gasped at the sight. The planet's surface was a patchwork of different environments, lush jungles next to barren deserts, ice caps bordering volcanic wastelands. Welcome to Nexus, Jack announced with a flourish. It's a trading hub for all the misfits and outlaws in this sector. If you need something off the books, this is where you find it. They landed in a bustling spaceport, a hodgepodge of ships from 100 different worlds crammed together. Jack turned to his companions, his expression serious. Now, you two need to blend in. We can't have anyone recognizing you. From a storage locker, he produced a collection of warm clothes and scarves. It's not exactly royal attire, but it'll do the job. Soon, the elegant princess and her daughter were transformed into nondescript travelers, their distinctive skin hidden beneath layers of fabric. Jack nodded approvingly. Perfect. Just stick close to me and try not to gawk too much. As they stepped out into the chaotic streets of Nexus, Lyra couldn't contain her excitement. Aliens of every shape and size bustled past them, the air filled with a cacophony of strange languages and even stranger smells. Jack led them through winding alleys and bustling marketplaces, bartering for supplies with a colorful array of characters. Zara watched in amazement as he haggled with a 6-armed merchant, somehow managing to get 3 crates of high-grade fuel cells for the price of 1. I must say, Captain, she murmured as they moved on, you have quite a talent for negotiation. Jack winked at her. You'd be surprised how far a little charm and a lot of bluffing can get you in this part of the galaxy. As they were making their way back to the ship, laden with supplies, a commotion erupted in the marketplace behind them. Jack's hand instinctively went to the blaster at his hip as he turned to see what was happening. A group of hulking reptilian figures was shoving their way through the crowd. Dracon soldiers. Time to go, Jack muttered, ushering Zara and Lyra into a narrow side street. They hurried through the winding alleys, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. Jack's mind raced, trying to find a way out of this mess. Suddenly, a door creaked open beside them, and a gravelly voice whispered, "In here, quickly." Without time to consider the consequences, Jack pushed Zara and Lyra through the door, following close behind. They found themselves in a dimly lit workshop, surrounded by strange machinery and blinking consoles. Their savior was a squat, purple-skinned alien with 4 eyes and tentacles for arms. "Greetings, fellow fugitives," it gurgled. "I am Dr. Xanth, and I despise the Dracon as much as you do." Jack eyed the alien warily. "Thanks for the save, Doc. But how do we know we can trust you?" Dr. Xanth's eyes blinked in sequence. "Because, my dear human, I am part of the resistance you seek." Zara gasped, stepping forward. "You know of the rebel base in Andromeda?" "Indeed, Your Highness," Dr. Xanth replied with a bow. "Your disguise is admirable, but I'd recognize a Centauri Royal anywhere." Before they could react, the sound of Dracon voices echoed from just outside. Dr. Xanth ushered them towards a large cylindrical machine in the corner of the workshop. "Quickly, into the matter transmitter. It will take you to a safe location." Jack hesitated. "Hold on a second. Matter transmitter? That sounds an awful lot like." "There's no time to argue," Zara interrupted, pulling Lyra towards the machine. "We must trust him." With a resigned sigh, Jack followed them into the transmitter. Dr. Xant's tentacles flew over the controls, and the world around them began to shimmer and dissolve. When the dizziness subsided, they found themselves in a vast underground cavern. Sleek ships and advanced weaponry lined the walls, and aliens of various species bustled about with purpose. A tall, elegant being with silvery skin approached them, flanked by armed guards. "Welcome, Princess Zara," it said in a melodious voice. "I am Commander Laura of the Galactic Resistance. We've been expecting you." Jack's head was spinning, trying to process everything that had happened in the last few minutes. "Hold up," he interjected. "Would someone mind filling me in on what's going on here?" Commander Laura turned its luminous eyes on Jack. "Ah, the human. You've played your part well, Captain Harper. But I'm afraid your journey with us has only just begun." Zara placed a hand on Jack's arm. "I'm sorry for the deception, Captain, but we needed to be sure we could trust you before revealing the full extent of our plans." Jack looked around the rebel base, then back at Zara and Lyra. He thought of the Dracom soldiers searching for them, of the oppression spreading across the galaxy. With a rueful shake of his head, he realized he was already in too deep to back out now. "All right," he said, straightening up. "I'm listening. What's this master plan of yours?" Commander Lyra gestured for them to follow. "Walk with me, Captain Harper. We have much to discuss about the future of our galaxy and humanity's role in it." As they made their way deeper into the rebel base, Jack couldn't help but marvel at the strange turn his life had taken. Just days ago, he was a simple cargo pilot trying to stay out of trouble. Now he was at the heart of a galactic resistance, preparing to take on an empire. Whatever came next, he had a feeling it was going to be one hell of a ride. The Great Escape. The rebel base hummed with activity as Captain Jack Harper stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, surrounded by alien resistance leaders. Commander Lu's silvery form glided around the projection, highlighting key strategic points. "The Dracon Empire's strength lies in their hive mind technology," Lyra explained. "It allows them to coordinate vast fleets with terrifying efficiency, but it's also their greatest weakness." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, the kid's the key to shutting it down." Zara nodded, her hand resting protectively on Lyra's shoulder. "My daughter's unique genetic makeup can disrupt the Dracom hive mind. But to do so, we need to get her to the heart of their empire, the Nexus core." "Great," Jack muttered. "So we just need to waltz into the most heavily fortified location in the galaxy. Should be a piece of cake." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. A frantic voice came over the comm system. "Dracon fleet incoming. They found us." Commander Lyra's calm demeanor faltered for the first time. "Impossible. Our location is shielded from all known detection methods." "Not all of them," Jack realized with growing dread. He turned to Zara and Lyra. "They must have tagged us somehow during the chaos on Nexus." The base erupted into frenzied activity as rebels rushed to battle stations. Commander Lyra began barking orders, coordinating their defenses. Jack grabbed Zara's arm. "We need to get out of here. Now. If they capture Lyra, it's all over." Zara hesitated, torn between her duty to the Resistance and protecting her daughter. Finally, she nodded. "You're right. But how?" "The Dracon will have the entire system locked down." A mischievous grin spread across Jack's face. "Leave that to me. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve that even the mighty Dracon Empire hasn't seen before." They raced through the chaotic corridors of the rebel base, dodging panicked aliens and falling debris as the first Dracon bombardments began to hit. Jack led them to a small hangar bay where the rusty bucket sat, looking even more out of place among the sleek rebel ships. "Everybody in," Jack shouted, practically shoving Zara and Lyra up the boarding ramp. He sprinted to the cockpit, his fingers flying over the controls as he brought the old freighter to life. "Hang on to something," he warned as the ship lurched off the ground. "This is gonna get bumpy." The rusty bucket shot out of the hangar just as explosions rocked the rebel base. The sky above was filled with Drakon warships, their menacing forms blotting out the stars. "There's no way through that blockade," Zara said, her voice tight with fear. Jack's eyes gleamed with determination. "Watch and learn, Your Highness. Time to show these lizards what a real pilot can do." He threw the rusty bucket into a series of wild maneuvers, weaving between laser blasts and debris. The ship groaned in protest, pushed to its limits and beyond. As they approached the Drakon blockade, Jack reached for a lever hidden beneath the main console. Let's see how they like a taste of good old-fashioned human ingenuity. He pulled the lever, and suddenly the space around the rusty bucket shimmered and distorted. To the Drakon sensors, it appeared as if the small freighter had split into dozens of identical copies, each flying in a different direction. "Holographic countermeasures," Jack explained with a grin. "A little souvenir from my less-than-legal days. Should confuse their targeting systems just enough for us to slip through." The gambit worked. The Drakon ships fired wildly at the phantom images, creating chaos in their own ranks. In the confusion, the real rusty bucket slipped past their defenses and into open space. But their victory was short-lived. As soon as they cleared the planet's gravity well, a massive Drakon flagship appeared directly in their path, its weapons primed and ready. "End of the line, fugitives," a cold voice crackled over their comm system. "Surrender now or be destroyed." Jack's mind raced, searching for a way out. Suddenly, Laura spoke up, a small voice filled with determination. "I have an idea, Captain Harper, but you'll have to trust me." Zara looked at her daughter in surprise. "Lyra, what are you?" "There's no time, Mama," Lyra interrupted. She turned to Jack. "Can you get us close to that big ship? Really close?" Jack nodded, not sure where this was going but willing to try anything. "Hold on tight, kid. This is gonna be close." He pushed the rusty bucket's straining engines to their absolute limit, hurtling towards the Drakon flagship at breakneck speed. Laser fire filled the space around them, the old freighter shuddering with each near miss. As they approached the massive ship, Lara closed her eyes in concentration. Suddenly, the air around her began to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Drakon flagship's coordinated attack faltered, its movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. Confused chatter filled the comm channels as the hive-mind connection was disrupted. "Now, Captain," Lara shouted, her small frame trembling with effort. "Get us out of here." Jack didn't need to be told twice. He executed a sharp turn, skirting along the surface of the disoriented Drakon ship, before punching in the coordinates for a blind hyperspace jump. The stars stretched into lines around them as they leaped into the safety of hyperspace. For a moment, there was silence in the cockpit, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. Then Jack let out a whoop of exhilaration. "Kid, that was amazing. What did you do?" Lyra slumped in her seat, exhausted but smiling. "I focus my energy to disrupt their hive-mind connection, but I can only do it for a short time, and only at close range." Zara hugged her daughter tightly, a mix of pride and concern on her face. "You were very brave, my darling, but we must be careful. Using your ability drains you, and we can't risk the Drakon discovering the full extent of your powers." Jack leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Well, we're not out of the woods yet. That jump was completely blind. No telling where we'll end up." As if on cue, the rusty bucket shuddered and dropped out of hyperspace. The view outside the cockpit window made them all gasp in awe. Before them stretched a vast nebula, its swirling clouds of gas and dust painted in breathtaking hues of purple, blue, and gold. And nestled within its cosmic folds was a small, uncharted planet. "Well," Jack said with a grin, "looks like we found ourselves a hidden paradise. Perfect place to lay low and plan our next move." As they descended towards the mysterious planet, none of them could shake the feeling that their adventure was only just beginning. The Dracon Empire was still out there, growing stronger by the day. But in this moment, as human ingenuity combined with alien determination, a spark of hope flickered to life in the vast darkness of space. The fate of the galaxy rested in their hands, and against all odds, they were ready to fight. A daring plan. The alien sun cast a purple glow over the lush landscape as Jack, Zara, and Lyra emerged from the rusty bucket. They had landed in a clearing surrounded by towering trees with iridescent leaves that shimmered in the breeze. "Well, it's not exactly a 5-star resort," Jack quipped, taking in their surroundings, "but it'll do for a hideout." Zara nodded, her eyes scanning the alien terrain. "We should be safe here, at least for a while. It will give us time to plan our next move." As they set up a makeshift camp, Laura explored the nearby area, her natural curiosity overcoming her fear. She returned with handfuls of strange, glowing fruits. "Look what I found," she exclaimed, her eyes bright with excitement. Jack eyed the alien produce warily. "Maybe we should stick to our rations for now, kid. No telling what those might do to our insides." As night fell, they gathered around a small fire, the unfamiliar constellations twinkling overhead. The gravity of their situation settled over them like a heavy blanket. "So," Jack said, breaking the silence, "anyone got any brilliant ideas on how to take down an entire empire?" Zara's face was grim in the firelight. "The Dracon's power lies in their hive mind. If we could disrupt it on a large scale, their entire command structure would crumble." "And let me guess," Jack interjected, "the only way to do that is to get the kid to their home world, right in the heart of enemy territory." Lyra nodded, her small face set with determination. "I can do it. I know I can." Jack sighed, running a hand through his hair. "No offense, kid, but even if we could get you there, you said yourself you can only disrupt their hive mind for a short time and at close range. We need to take out their entire network simultaneously." A thoughtful expression crossed Zara's face. "Perhaps not. Captain, what if we could amplify Lyra's ability, broadcast it across their entire empire?" Jack's eyes widened as he caught onto her train of thought. "Like a signal booster. That could actually work, but we'd need access to their communication network." "The Nexus Core," Lyra chimed in. "It's the center of their hive mind. If we could get there, we could use their own network against them," Zara finished, excitement building in her voice. Jack held up his hands. "Whoa, slow down. That's a great plan and all, but we're forgetting one tiny detail. The Nexus Core is probably the most heavily guarded place in the galaxy. How exactly do you propose we get in?" A mischievous smile spread across Zora's face. "With a Trojan horse, of course. Or should I say, a Trojan prisoner?" Jack's eyebrows shot up. "Oh no. I know that look. Whatever you're thinking, it's a bad idea." But as Zara laid out her plan, Jack found himself reluctantly admitting it might just be crazy enough to work. They would allow themselves to be captured, smuggling in the components they needed disguised as harmless tech. Once inside, they would assemble the device to amplify Lyra's ability and broadcast it through the Dracon's own communication network. As the fire died down and Lyra drifted off to sleep, Jack and Zara stayed up late into the night, refining their plan and preparing for the challenges ahead. The next few days were a flurry of activity. Jack worked tirelessly to modify parts from the rusty bucket, creating devices that could pass as harmless equipment, but could be reassembled into the signal amplifier they needed. Zara focused on coaching Lyra, helping her daughter strengthen her ability to disrupt the Dracon hive mind. The young princess pushed herself to her limits, determined to play her part in saving the galaxy. As they prepared to put their plan into action, Jack found a moment alone with Zara. "You know," he said quietly, "this plan of yours is completely insane. Our chances of pulling this off are, well, let's just say I wouldn't bet on us." Zara met his gaze, her eyes shining with a mix of fear and determination. "I know, but we have to try. The entire galaxy is counting on us, even if they don't know it yet. Jack nodded, a wry smile on his face. Well, when you put it like that, I guess we don't have much choice. He hesitated for a moment, then added, look, if something goes wrong in there, if it comes down to a choice between me or getting Lyra out. Jack, Zara interrupted, placing a hand on his arm. We're in this together. All of us. We'll succeed together, or go down in a blaze of glory. Jack finished with a chuckle. You know, Your Highness, for a princess, you're not half bad. Zara rolled her eyes, but there was a smile on her face. And for a scruffy-looking cargo pilot, you're not entirely hopeless. The moment was interrupted by Lyra's excited voice. I did it. I did it. They turned to see the young princess standing in a clearing, her eyes closed in concentration. Around her, the local wildlife seemed disoriented, stumbling about as if confused. She's affecting their hive-like communication, Zara explained, her voice filled with pride. If she can do this to an entire planet's ecosystem, then she might just have a shot at taking down the Dracon, Jack finished, impressed despite himself. As they made their final preparations, loading the disguise components onto the rusty bucket, a sense of nervous anticipation filled the air. They were about to embark on a mission that would either save the galaxy or end in their capture or death. Jack took one last look at the peaceful alien world that had been their temporary haven. Well, folks, he said, his voice a mix of resignation and determination, let's go get ourselves captured by an evil empire. As the rusty bucket lifted off, carrying its precious cargo of hope and human ingenuity, none of them could shake the feeling that the fate of the entire galaxy rested on their shoulders. But together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The rusty bucket soared into the alien sky, leaving behind the safety of their hidden paradise and heading straight into the heart of danger. The next phase of their audacious plan was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Battle for freedom. The rusty bucket drifted listlessly through space, its systems running on minimal power. Inside, Jack, Zara, and Lyra waited in tense silence, every passing moment feeling like an eternity. You sure this is going to work? Jack muttered, his eyes fixed on the scanner. Zara nodded, though her tightened grip on Lyra's hand betrayed her nervousness. The Dracon's patrol routes are predictable. They'll find us soon enough. As if on cue, the ship's sensors blared to life. A massive Dracon cruiser had just dropped out of hyperspace, its imposing form filling the view screen. Showtime, Jack said, taking a deep breath. He opened a communication channel. This is the independent freighter Rusty Bucket. Our engines are dead, and we're running out of life support. We surrender. Please, we need help. For a heart-stopping moment, there was no response. Then, a cold, reptilian voice crackled through the speakers. Prepare to be boarded, human vessel. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. As the Dracon tractor beam locked onto their ship, Jack turned to his companions. Remember the plan. No matter what happens, stick to your roles. The next few hours were a blur of harsh lights, rough handling, and intimidating interrogations. The Dracon soldiers tore the rusty bucket apart, searching for any sign of contraband or rebellion. But Jack had done his job well. The components of their signal amplifier were disguised as harmless, broken tech scattered throughout the ship. Finally, they were brought before the ship's commander, a towering Dracon with scarred scales and cold, calculating eyes. Well, the commander hissed, circling them like a predator. What do we have here? A human gutter rat, a Centauri royal, and his eyes narrowed as they fell on Lyra. How very interesting. Zara stepped forward, her chin held high despite her fear. I am Princess Zara of the Centauri Alliance. I invoke the right of royal sanctuary for myself and my daughter. The commander's laughter was like scraping metal. The Centauri Alliance is no more, little princess, but you may yet be of use to the Empire. He gestured to his soldiers. Take them to the brig. Set course for the Nexus core. The Empress will want to deal with these guests personally. As they were led away, Jack caught Zora's eye and gave her a subtle nod. Phase 1 of their plan was complete. Now came the hard part. The journey to the Nexus core took several days, during which they were kept in separate cells. Jack used the time to memorize his ship's layout and observe the guards' routines. Zora focused on keeping Lyra calm and centered, knowing that the young princess's ability would be crucial to their success. Finally, they arrived at their destination. The Nexus core was a massive space station, a twisted amalgamation of organic and mechanical elements that served as the heart of the Dracon Empire. As they were led through its winding corridors, Jack marveled at the complex network of pulsing energy conduits that seemed to connect every part of the station. That must be how they transmit the hive mind signal, he whispered to Zara. If we can tap into that— Silence, prisoners, a guard snarled, shoving Jack forward. They were brought to a vast chamber, dominated by a towering throne of crystalline material. Upon it sat the Dracon Empress, her scales shimmering with an otherworldly light. So, the Empress's voice reverberated through the chamber, the last remnants of the Centauri royal line, delivered right to my doorstep. How convenient. Zora stepped forward, her voice steady despite her fear. Empress, I come seeking peace. The war between our peoples has gone on long enough. Surely we can find a way to coexist. The Empress's laughter was chilling. Peace? Coexistence? You misunderstand, little princess. The Dracon do not seek to coexist. We seek to dominate, to bring order to the chaos of the galaxy. And you— her gaze fell on Lyra. You will be the key to our final victory. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. The Empress hissed in frustration. What is the meaning of this? A panicked officer rushed into the chamber. Your Imperial Majesty, we're under attack. A rebel fleet has just dropped out of hyperspace. Jack's eyes widened in surprise. This wasn't part of the plan. But as he caught sight of a familiar ship leading the charge on a nearby monitor, he couldn't help but grin. The Rusty Bucket, or rather, a ship made to look exactly like it, was at the forefront of the assault. Looks like the cavalry's arrived, he muttered. The chamber erupted into chaos. As the Dracon rushed to battle stations, Jack saw their opportunity. He nodded to Zara, who immediately sprang into action. Now, Lyra, she shouted. The young princess closed her eyes in concentration, and suddenly the air around them shimmered with energy. The Dracon guards stumbled, their movements becoming uncoordinated as their hive-mind connection was disrupted. Jack didn't waste a second. He tackled the nearest guard, grabbing their weapon. Zara, the amplifier. Working quickly, they assembled the components they had smuggled in. Jack's fingers flew over the makeshift device, connecting it to the pulsing energy conduits that ran through the chamber. It's now or never, kid, he called to Lyra. Give it everything you've got. Lyra placed her hands on the amplifier, her face scrunched in concentration. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a wave of energy pulsed outward, rippling through the station and beyond. On screens throughout the chamber, they watched as Dracon ships across the galaxy suddenly lost formation, colliding with each other or drifting aimlessly in space. The hive mind that had been their greatest strength had become their undoing. The Empress shrieked in fury, lunging towards them. But without the coordinated power of the hive mind, she was no match for Jack's quick reflexes and Zora's determination to protect her daughter. As the rebel fleet pressed their advantage outside, Jack, Zora, and Lyra fought their way through the confused Dracon forces. They reached a hangar bay, commandeering a small shuttle. As they sped away from the Nexus core, now erupting with explosions as the rebel attack found its mark, Jack couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. I can't believe we actually pulled it off, he said, shaking his head in wonder. Zora smiled, hugging Lyra close. We did it together. Human ingenuity, Centauri determination, and a little girl's extraordinary gift. As they joined the rebel fleet, ready to begin the long process of dismantling the Dracon Empire and bringing freedom to the galaxy, Jack realized that his life would never be the same. He had found something worth fighting for, a cause greater than himself. And as he looked at Zara and Lyra, he knew he had also found a family. The battle for freedom was won, but the adventure was far from over. A new chapter in galactic history was about to begin, with humanity playing a pivotal role in shaping the future of countless worlds. Jack grinned, setting a course for the stars. So, where to next, Your Highnesses? We've got a whole galaxy to explore. As the shuttle soared into the unknown, the possibilities seemed as endless as the cosmos itself. A new beginning. The great hall of the newly established Galactic Concord buzzed with activity. Representatives from dozens of species, once oppressed under Dracon rule, now gathered to shape the future of their shared cosmos. At the center of it all stood an unlikely trio, a human ex-smuggler, a Centaurid princess, and a young girl with extraordinary abilities. Jack fidgeted uncomfortably in his formal attire, tugging at the collar. "Remind me again why I agreed to this diplomat nonsense," he muttered to Zara. She smiled, adjusting his jacket. "Because, like it or not, you're a hero of the revolution. The people trust you." "Hero," Jack scoffed. "I was just trying to stay alive." "And in doing so, you helped free the galaxy," Zara reminded him. Her expression softened. "You've come a long way from that scruffy cargo pilot I met all those months ago." Before Jack could respond, a hush fell over the assembly. Commander Lyra, now serving as interim leader of the Galactic Concord, stepped up to the podium. "Fellow sentients," Lyra's melodious voice rang out, "today marks a new era for our galaxy. The Dracon Empire has fallen, and with it, the tyranny that has plagued us for generations. But our work is far from over." As Lyra outlined the challenges ahead, reintegrating fractured worlds, dismantling the remnants of Dracon technology, establishing a fair system of interstellar governance, Jack found his mind wandering. He thought back to that fateful day when a distress call had changed the course of his life. Lyra tugged at his hand, bringing him back to the present. "Are you okay, Jack?" she whispered, her eyes full of concern. He smiled down at her. "Just thinking, kid, about how sometimes the greatest adventures start when you least expect them." The proceedings continued, with various representatives stepping forward to pledge their support for the new alliance. When it was Zara's turn to speak, she surprised everyone by pulling Jack and Lyra up to the podium with her. "The fall of the Dracon Empire was not achieved by any one species alone," she declared. "It was the combined effort of many, including those we least expected." She smiled at Jack. Humanity, long isolated on the fringes of known space, proved to be the wild card that tipped the scales in our favor. Their ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination in the face of overwhelming odds were crucial to our victory. Jack felt his face grow hot as the assembled delegates turned to look at him. This was definitely not part of the plan. Zara continued, "As we move forward, let us remember this lesson. Our strength lies not in uniformity, but in diversity. Each species brings unique gifts to our galactic community. Together, we are stronger than we could ever be apart." As applause filled the hall, Jack leaned in close to Zara. "Nice speech, Your Highness. But next time, a little warning before you put me in the spotlight, yeah?" Zara's eyes twinkled with mischief. Now where would be the fun in that? The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings, discussions, and planning sessions. As the sun began to set, casting the sprawling capital city in a golden glow, Jack found a quiet moment alone on a balcony overlooking the bustling streets below. Zara joined him, leaning on the railing. "Credit for your thoughts." Jack chuckled, just thinking about how crazy life can be. A year ago, I was scraping by on the outer rim, trying to stay off everyone's radar. Now look at me, a diplomat of all things. "Having second thoughts?" Zara asked, a hint of concern in her voice. Jack shook his head. "Nah, it's just, A lot to take in. This brave new galaxy we're building, it's going to need all hands on deck, even scruffy ex-smugglers like me. Zara placed her hand over his. You sell yourself short, Jack. You've proven yourself a leader, whether you like it or not. The people look up to you. God help them, Jack muttered, but there was no real bite to his words. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city come alive with lights as night fell. Finally, Jack spoke again. So, what's next for the Centauri royal family? Back to rebuilding your homeworld. Zara hesitated. Actually, I've been thinking. The Centauri Alliance as it was. Perhaps it's time for something new. My people have been offered a seat on the Galactic Concord Council. I'm considering accepting it. Jack raised an eyebrow. Look at you, embracing democracy. Your ancestors must be rolling in their space graves. Zara laughed, playfully swatting his arm. Times change, Jack. We must change with them. She paused, then added softly, besides there are other considerations keeping me here. The air between them seemed to charge with unspoken emotions. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted by Lyra bursting onto the balcony. Jack, Mama, come quick. They're about to unveil the memorial. Hand in hand, the three of them made their way to the central plaza. A large crowd had gathered around a shrouded monument. As they watched, the covering fell away, revealing a stunning holographic display. It showed scenes from their adventure, the escape from the rebel base, the battle at the Nexus core, and the final moments of the Dracon Empire's fall. At the center of it all was an image of the Rusty Bucket, flanked by figures representing the diverse alliance that had come together to fight for freedom. Well, I'll be damned, Jack murmured. They made that old rust bucket look almost respectable. Lyra giggled. Does this mean we're famous now? I suppose it does, we thought, Zara replied, ruffling her daughter's hair. As the crowd cheered and the festivities began in earnest, Jack looked at Zara and Lyra. In them, he saw not just his past adventures, but his future. A future filled with challenges, no doubt, but also with hope, purpose, and family. You know, he said, a slow grin spreading across his face, I've got a feeling our greatest adventure is just beginning. Zara smiled back, her eyes shining with the light of 1,000 stars. Lead the way, Captain Harper. And so, as a new era dawned for the galaxy, 3 unlikely heroes stood ready to face whatever the cosmos might throw at them. Human ingenuity, Centauri wisdom, and the boundless potential of the next generation. Together, they were ready to write the next chapter in the grand story of the universe. The adventure, it seemed, was far from over. It was only just beginning.